Hi, Timothy Unkert here. This is part 9 of my late 2022 Python programming tutorial. This may be the last part for a while. I'm going to go into Ruby after this a bit. I started just as a noob doing some competitive programming, and I know everyone likes to do C++, but I kind of want to learn Ruby a bit better and see if I can do okay with it. I mean, it's supposedly a little bit slower language, but I think there are optimizations that I can make. Anyways, I do plan to include some videos on competitive programming and the experience that I have with Ruby going forward. But for right now, I'm going to continue with Python here. And what I'm going to do is through this video, we'll get up to the point where we're fetching from an API, just open Brewery database, and just getting some information as a Python dictionary and that kind of thing. And I think this gives you a good foundation. If there's really a demand for it, I'll probably do some more Python videos if there really is a demand for it. But for right now, I think I'm going to finish up with this one. So we're going to talk for the first video of this for the first file of this last video, we're going to talk about classes in Python. So I'm going to call it 056 classes. And I'm going to create that file, classes.py. All right. And we're going to create our own class in Python so we can create object-oriented Python programming. Okay, so to create a class, let's make a comment that we are creating a class. Okay, to create a class, we're going to use the class keyword. And classes, the convention is to put them as uppercase. So I'm going to call this class student. And then I'm going to create a dunder init method, which you'd want to do at the start of your class. So we have a dunder init method, and we're going to use this word self. And then some other things that we might pass in as we're creating the student. So we're going to create an object and it's called instantiating a student object. And for a student, I think we're going to have a first name, we'll probably have a last name, and we'll have an age. Okay. And in the dunder init method, we'll just say self dot f underscore name equals f underscore name, self dot l underscore name equals l underscore name, and then self dot age equals age. Okay. And then we'll come down here and we'll say S1. We'll create we'll instantiate an object of a student class. So we'll say S1 is a student, and we'll give the name, first name Sean, last name Smith, and let's just make an age 42. Okay. So now we can access different parts of this class and we can print them. So I'm going to do that. And so this will just be our little intro. So I'm going to say s1.f, and then it gives me the suggestion, my IDE gives me the suggestion, oh, you can use fname here. So I'm going to do that. And I'm going to say plus, we'll do a space because we're concatenating this. So we'll do s1 dot l name. Okay, so when I do the dot, I get some of the options available to me. And then I'll do plus is, and then do plus, and we'll do a string. We'll convert this to a string, and we'll say s1 dot age. Okay, and we'll do plus years old. Okay, so what is this going to print to the screen? Well, it's going to print Sean Smith is 42 years old. Okay, so let's now run it. And we get Sean Smith is 42 years old. Pretty sweet. Okay. All right. So let's go back to Python here. And we're going to go to, I'm looking at my repository. Let's go to methods. So we're going to create some more methods in another class. Okay. and we'll create another student class, but let's do it in another file just to kind of keep this organized. Again, I'll leave a link to the GitHub repo in the description and links to the other videos in this series. So we're going to do 057 methods here, and that's .py. And if I'm a little slow this morning, it's because I haven't had enough caffeine. So I'm going to have a sip here. Okay, there we go. Caffeine and sugar in. So we're going to create a class called student. And let's create our dunder init method. And we'll have a self, name, and age. Okay. And we'll say self.name equals name. Self.age equals age. Okay. And now we can create some other methods in a class. And typically between methods, between functions, you might have two lines. But in a class, the methods, the AutoPep8 standard is to have one line. I learned that from my IDE. It said, hey, you put too many spaces. Okay, so I'm going to do def student underscore type. And we'll pass in the self. My IDE is auto-completing that for me. And we're going to have this method, which is a function that's in a class. We're going to have the method return what type of student the student is based on the age. So we're going to say if, and we have to do self.age is less than 6, we're going to return an F string and say we'll do self.name. Oops, and I got to do a string here. Self.name is a pre-school student. Okay. And then we'll say elif. So elif self.age. And we can do this in Python. We can do an interesting thing because I want it to be greater than or equal to 6. So I can do something like this, self.age, and then less than or equal to 10. Okay, so that's a way you can do it in Python. So let's return, do another F string. We'll say, if I can type here, I don't know if the caffeine has kicked in yet. It has obviously not. I crashed on a mountain bike this past weekend, and I haven't been sleeping well. I think I might have bruised/cracked a rib. So, yeah, if I seem out of it, sorry. Okay, so that's an elementary school student. So let's do elif 11 is less than or equal to self.age, so less than or equal to 13. And we're going to return, do an F string here, and we'll do self.name is a middle school student. Okay, and then we'll do elif. So we got the middle school, we got to do the high school now. So we're going to do 14, and these ages aren't exact, but you get the point. So we'll do 14 to 17. Well, some high school students are 15 to 18, or some that I've taught have stayed around till 21. You never know. Some people like it. Is a high school student. Doesn't matter as long as you get it done. Well, it does, but anyways, so then we'll also say else, and we'll return an F string here and say self.name is a graduate, postgraduate, or adult learner. Okay. All right, cool. So we'll do a couple lines here and go back here. And so now we're going to create some students. So we'll create a student 1. It's going to be me. So we're going to say student and give a name, Timothy Unkert, and give an age, 46. I'm getting up there. S2 is a student. We'll do Johnny. Age 5. He's a young one. Then we'll do student Billy, also very young, got his whole life ahead of him. And then we'll do another student, Mary. Mary will be, whoops, what did I do there? Mary will be, sorry, 19. Okay. And what we're going to do now is we're going to print, we'll do S1 dot, and you'll see that I have this method, student type. Okay. I can do that. And I'm just going to duplicate here and just do S2, S3, and oops, and S4. Okay. And you just see here, I want to make sure I didn't trailing semicolon. I've been putting a semicolon. Did I do that? Where is that? Trailing semicolon in statement. Remove it. And remove it. Okay, and let's make sure it's formatted right here. So all right. Cool. Let's now run this. And we see here we get Timothy Unkert is a graduate, postgraduate, or adult learner. I am an adult learner. I also was a graduate student. I have my master's, but not my PhD. Useless information. Johnny is a preschool student. Billy is a high school student. Mary is a graduate, postgraduate, or adult learner. I think, I probably wanted to put another one for undergraduate, but she could just be an undergraduate as well. Anyway, so you get the point. You can create methods inside of classes, which is pretty cool. And let's now go down here. Let's see, the next thing I want to talk about is inheritance. Okay, so let's create a new file. And we'll call this 058 underscore, what did I call this one? Underscore inheritance. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my previous file. And let's take all of this. Let's copy this and put it into my inheritance file. That's going to give me a warning. There's duplicates in your project. But anyways, so what I'm going to do is create another class. I'm going to say class, and we'll call it elementary student. And we'll inherit from the student class, okay? And so we'll create a method called subjects. Okay, taking the self, and we're going to return an F string, and we're going to say something like self.name has classes in reading, mathematics, and world history. Okay, and we'll go down here, and we'll also create a class of high school student that inherits from student. Okay, and we'll say we'll create a method called trouble, takes in the self, and we'll say if self.name double equals Billy. Oh, that jumped way up there, sorry. If that's the case, we're going to return an F string, and we'll say self.name got in trouble with the coppers for vandalism. And I'm going to just do a slash and go down here. And I don't like that it does that. That's annoying. where the troll lives. So he was messing around with the troll. He vandalized the troll's place, and the coppers came after. Otherwise, we'll just return, and we don't have to use else. We can just return, because if we don't meet the if condition, it's not going to fire. So we'll say self.name did not get in any trouble during high school. And this is for vandalism of the bridge. I want to make it technically correct. Okay. All right. So now we're going to create some high school students. So do an S1, and we'll say this is, well, we're going to create an elementary school student first. And we'll give her the name of Kim, age 7. Do an S2 is a high school student. Okay. Notice I'm passing this stuff in without creating a dunder init because these have inherited from that student class, and so I can already do that. So I can give them names. Billy, 17. All right. So, what we could do is we could print and do Billy and then do a dot and not Billy, do S3 and do a dot, and then we get the student type. So we can print the student type, but we could also then, so that's accessing the student class, right? Because the student type is in the student class. So we can access that, but we can also print, do S3 and do the dot trouble, okay? And so we can print those both out, and if we run those, we see Billy is a high school student, so that's inheriting from the student class, and then we also have the method Billy got in trouble with the coppers for vandalism of the bridge where the troll lives, naturally. But likewise, if we print S2 and do trouble, she's going to be the same student type if we printed that out, but we would get that Sarah did not get in any trouble during high school. Okay, so, and then we could also, we could print S1, and you notice S1, she's got subjects and student type available, but not trouble. She does not have trouble. So let's do subjects. That's going to tell us what subjects Kim has. So Kim has classes in readings, mathematics, and world history. Cool. All right. So that's a little bit about inheritance. We're going to shift gears. Take a look. Next file, we're going to shift gears here and go into for loops, because we haven't really covered those a ton, so I'm going to take a break to cover those. I'm kind of jumping around a little bit. So we're going to Python file 059. I've probably touched on these a little bit, but let's cover them a little bit more in detail. So let's do for loops. And so I'm going to create an array of nums or a list of nums. It's called a list in Python. And I'm going to unpack a range from 1 to 101. So that's really numbers from 1 to 100. The upper value is 1 less, okay? And then let's do FizzBuzz. Let's iterate through a list using FizzBuzz, which is a challenge where you print fizz if the number is divisible by 3, print buzz if the number is divisible by 5, and print FizzBuzz if the number is divisible by 3 and 5. Okay, so we can say something like for num in nums, if num modulo 3, if that equals 0, and num modulo 5 equals 0. So it's divisible by 3 and 5. We have to have that condition first. We'll print FizzBuzz. Okay. So we're using a for loop here. So we're saying for each number in the nums list, we're going to check these conditions. Then we'll say elif, and we got to give a condition here, num modulo 3, if that equals 0, so if it's only divisible by 3, well, then we want to print fizz. Elif num is only divisible by 5. Notice how the IDE will indent for me here. So we're going to print buzz, okay, and then finally we'll do an else. We'll just print the num, okay. All right. So let's run this. And we get our FizzBuzz here. We start 1, 2, fizz, blah, 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 up through FizzBuzz. Plenty of tutorials online, including some other videos on FizzBuzz. But so the main point from this, though, is we're iterating through the list using this method, this for loop method. We could also do we could do something like, well, nah, I think that's the best way to do it. So that's what I wanted to cover with for loops. I don't know if I talked a ton about those. And then the next thing I want to talk about is while loops. Okay. So let's create a new Python file. We're going to call this 060 underscore while underscore loops. And what we're going to do is we're going to say I equals 1. Okay. And we'll say while I is less than or equal to 100. What we're going to do is we'll do FizzBuzz this way. So we'll do our condition. So if I modulo 3 equals 0 and I modulo 5 equals 0, we're going to print FizzBuzz. So this is another way we can do it. Do elif I modulo 3, if that equals 0, we'll print fizz. Elif I modulo 5 equals 0, we'll print buzz. And then else we'll just print I. Okay. And then the one thing we need to do here is we need to get out of this conditional, but still stay in the while loop. So notice I'm an indented for here. The indentation is really important in Python. What I do have to do is increase I by 1 each time. So I can say I equals I plus 1, because otherwise we'll get an infinite loop, which is bad. All right. It'll just be 1 the entire time. Now, if we run this, we get our FizzBuzz loop just like we did with the for loop. And that's good to go. Next thing I want to talk about is scope. So we're going to create another file, new file, Python file. We'll call it 061 underscore scope. And let me open up that file and see what I want to talk about. Might have a couple files I created on scope. Yep. All right. So let's talk about creating a variable with global scope. Excuse me. Global scope. All right. So we're going to create a variable my underscore name equals Timothy Unkert. And come down here, create a function. Let's call it return underscore meaning. And we'll create a variable here with local scope. And we'll say, we got to still have this indented here. Meaning underscore of underscore life equals 42. And we'll return the meaning of life. Okay, so that's what that function does. And then we'll also have a function which is prints my name, and we'll pass in my name, and we'll return my name. Okay. All right. And what we could try and do, we could try this. Let's try and do this. Meaning underscore of life. So we're outside the function. We're trying to access this this variable here. And notice we've got a red underscore line here. So if we run this, we're going to get an exit code of 1, a name error. Meaning of life is not defined. Okay. So we can't do this. So this gives us a exit code of 1, which is bad. And it's a name error. The meaning of life is not defined. Okay. And I'm going to comment that out so we can do something else. But what we could do, and this will work, is we'll print return meaning. So now we can, returns this variable that's in here. So we can do that. And if we do that, we get 42 and no errors. Exit code 0. Cool. All right. And we could also pass in my name, the global variable, into the function. So we could do something like print and do an F string and say my name is, and then do here the print my name function. So we have print my name, and we're going to pass in my name, the global variable. Okay, and then if we run this, we go, my name is Timothy Unkert. So we can access the global variable in a function that way, but we can't just take a local variable from a function and print it outside the function. So let's clean that up. Looks okay. All right. So next thing I want to talk about is closure. So that'll be 062 underscore closure. So we'll do new Python file 062 underscore closure. And let's create that. Okay. And so now let's create a function that increments a, so every time you call it, it will increment by 1. Okay. So let's create a function. We'll call it incrementor. And we're not going to take anything into it. We're going to do an incrementor dot counter. Okay. And we'll say plus equals 1. Okay. All right. And then we'll return the incrementor dot counter from this function. Now we're going to start, we'll start our incrementor dot counter, incrementor dot counter. Okay, set it equal to 0. And what we're going to do is we'll print the incrementer function and we'll run it a bunch of times. Okay, so now if I run this, I'm getting it incrementing each time. Even though I initially set it to 0, it's not changing. So it's going in, set it 0, but then we add 1. Okay, so first time we call it, we return 1. Second time we call it, we return 2. Third time we call it, we return 3. Okay, so yeah, so we've created it, but it's keeping track of it inside of this function. Okay, so that's one way we could do it. And we could do another way using the keyword non-local. All right, so let's create a new file, Python file here. Call this 063 underscore non-local underscore closure. Okay, and we're going to create another incrementer function. So let's create incrementor function. And we'll have a counter, set that equal to 0. And we'll create a function inside of it called up. Okay, and then within that, we'll refer to the counter variable outside. So we'll say non-local counter. Okay, and we'll do counter plus equals 1 here, and return counter in this function, counter. Okay, and here we'll return the up function inside this other function. Okay, so we'll return up. I don't need that. Okay, go down here and we'll say up equals incrementer. Okay, and now what we'll do is call up. So we'll call the up function. And let's do it a bunch of times. Run it, and we see we get it incrementing each time that way using the non-local keyword. So you could do that. You could change this to a minus here and have a decrementer as well, or a multiplier or something like that. So that's kind of cool functions you can create using non-local to and using closure. Okay, that was non-local closure. 2 more files I want to talk to. I want to talk about briefly about the datetime module, and then we'll do a little bit of API stuff. Okay, so let's create a new Python file here. We're going to call this 064 underscore datetime underscore module .py. And what we'll do is we'll import date time. And then we'll say now equals date time dot now. And today, so let's first print now first. So we'll print now, then, not now, just now. Okay, and then we're gonna get the exact time it is now. So it's 8:43 in the morning, 16.839363 seconds on October 4th, 2022. Okay, we can also do something like today. Okay, and we can say that is date time dot date dot today. Okay, and so I could print today. So let's do that. And if I do that, I get just the date of today, which is October 4th, 2022. Okay, I could also do the month. So let's do the month. So I can say date time dot now dot month. Okay, and I could go ahead and print the month there. And if I print it, I get 10 for October. Okay, I'm going to just duplicate this real quick, and let's do some multiple cursors here. Boom, boom. All right, and change this to year. Year. Wow. Year. Okay, there we go. And now we could print the year. All right, and if I do that and run it, I get 2022 is the year. And that's using the datetime module. Last video, or last file I want to talk about is requests. Okay, so I can go here, and what I want to do is bring up my terminal. Let's change the settings here so you can see what I'm doing. Change it to 20. And yeah. And open up the terminal here. Let's make it a little bit larger. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I want to install Python 3 pip. So I'm going to do sudo apt install Python 3-pip. Okay, and I'll say yes. I want to take the extra space, and I'm going to get some caffeine while it's doing this. Okay, and it's going to go through, and I'm doing this because I need to install a module called requests. And while we're doing that, let's go take a look at what website we're going to go to. So I'm going to type in Open Brewery database here. And I get this Open Brewery database. Let's see if I can make this a little bit larger. Okay, so we got this. We can read the API documentation. Let's click on that. And here we go. So if we want to, I don't know, do it by city. No, well, that's just goes to the Wikipedia. We could run it by city, and then we see kind of the format here: HTTPS API openbrewery.org breweries _by_city. So this is a query by_city equals San Diego, and then we do this and operator and per page equals 3. Okay, so we're going to try that. Let's do it with Denver, and let's check back here, and we're still at 40%. Well, what we can do is just wait, or we could start creating the file. Let's do that. So the file is going to be, and you'll see it's like, ooh, I've got Python 3 pip installed. So, woo. Okay, so we're going to go new Python file. This is going to be 065 underscore. We'll call this requests.py. Okay. All right. Let's check out our progress. We're almost there. Come on. You can do it. And well, it's a little frozen there. Anyways, but we are going to use this. So we're going to get something in this format, which we can use kind of as a dictionary. Okay, we're good. Now we have to type sudo pip 3 install requests. Now, note I'm doing this on a Chromebook, so it may be a little bit different on, if you're using Windows or Mac. Okay, so we got that installed. Cool. All right, so now we can go back here, and now we can type the line import requests. Okay, and let's see, I'm not sure if it's recognizing it. Okay, maybe just going ahead and installing it locally here. Okay, and we're updating here a little bit. You see the stuff is running my IDE, so it's recognizing it. Come on, you can do it. All right, there we go. So now no errors showing up. So we've imported requests, and now we can start to use this stuff. So the base URL, and again, this will be in the GitHub repository. It's going to be https://api.openbrewrydb.org. We'll have a slash here. Okay, so we put that as a string for the variable URL. Now we're going to say response. I'm going to call this a response underscore query. And we're going to use this request equals requests dot. We're going to do a method called get, where we pass in the URL and we concatenate it with the query. So we want breweries. Remember, we had a question mark by underscore city equals, I'm going to put in Denver here, and do and per underscore page. We could do 4, whatever, but I'm going to do 3, just like the documents had it. And what we'll do is we'll create a variable called data and say data equals response query dot JSON. Okay, like that. And let's just print out the data to see what we have. Okay, so we'll do that. And we've got this information coming back. So the first one that comes back is this brewery called 10 Barrel Brewing, Colorado, Denver. There's a name. The brewery type is large. Street address, city, Denver, state, Colorado, postal code, etc. Okay, so we're getting that back. Now, if you keep scrolling here, we see that we get a few other ones, right? I think so, yeah. Yeah, we get Aerocraft Brewing. They have a website there, so that we get 14er Brewing, because we have 14ers, which are mountains over 14,000 feet out here, and so on. So, but let's say we want to get just data for Barrel 10 Brewing, or 10 Barrel Brewing. I'm going to call it barrel underscore 10 because you can't start a variable with a number. And I'm going to say that equals data, and it's going to be the first one of these in the list. See, this is a list that we got here with JSON in it. So it's going to be the first one. So it's going to be 0. And now we can print from different things in the JSON, just like we're accessing a dictionary. So we could print barrel 10 dot, or in square brackets, not dot, in square brackets ID. We could print barrel 10. So that's going to give us the ID. We can do the name, which is pretty similar to the ID. We can do barrel 10. We could do the brewery type. So it's brewery underscore type is the key there. And then, so we're printing all these keys, and we're going to get the values, the key value pairs, right? And we can do the street. We could do other things too. There's a bunch of other stuff we could do. I don't know. Can we do the website? Let's see if it has a website URL. So website URL. So now let's just run this and we'll see what we get. And we get none. They didn't have a website URL. Okay, now we could change this to, I think the other one was Aerocraft. That was the last one. So there's 3 items. So it's going to be data at index 2. Let's just copy all this stuff. And okay, and I'll do multiple cursors here. Just go, no, that's not showing it. And I'm going to do Aerocraft. Okay, so now if we run this, date is not defined. Data. Oops. Okay, so now let's try it again. Run it. And so we get Aerocraft Brewing. There, planning type brewery. I don't know what that means. Street. They don't have a street address listed. And then the website for Aerocraft beer. I could even, let's see, can I go to that? Yep, I could go to it. Site can't be reached. Well, that's not good. But anyway, so you can get information from an API using this method. Okay, so this tutorial, this is going to be the last one for a bit. I may do some more stuff if there's really interest in it, but I think this is going to get you going with the basics of Python. It's just covering the service or the surface with these 65 files, but you could go on forever with the language and not learn it and not learn everything of the language. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like, as will help get out to more people. I want to thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.